Yours, Julian, on the brown note and a review of the Digga D album, his third mixtape after Double Tap Diaries made in the Pyrex, called Noughty by Nature, which I think is a good title. He spells naughty, so in the 90s there was a very prominent rap collective called Noughty by Nature, but he spelt it N-O-U, naughty, as in the noughties, as in the when he was born, as he's a post-millennial from Ladbroke Grove, West London style, and a purveyor of drill, UK drill music. Now, I think UK rap music, next to rap or spoken music out of the Caribbean and out of North America, is one of only three places where you could say that they have a credible indigenous part of rap music. It wasn't always that way. In the 90s, the UK's approximation of American rap music wasn't particularly interesting. There were really good people like Roots Maneuver and that came through, but it was really with the advent of grime when it became this indigenous thing to the UK that sounded like nothing else on earth. Even instrumentally, it was nothing like American rap music. And also, if you go back to the sort of really dusty stuff by the instrumental of, you know, Tricky and Portishead and Massive Attack, that had a big influence on American hip-hop as well. And you look at people like the Wu-Tang Clan as well. But grime itself, which has gone in waves, sometimes it's been really sort of obsessed with the charts, and sometimes it's been the exact opposite and extreme. But the last decade really saw UK rap come into its own. You had perhaps more traditional people like Dave come through with some very prominent couple of albums. You had the rebirth of grime, where Wiley and Skepta and Kano and people were coming through. And road rap, which was a much harder variant of traditional UK rap. But the real kicker was UK drill. Drill came out of Chicago with the likes of Chief Keef around the start of the decade, but arguably the most zeitgeist rap style on planet Earth at the moment is UK drill and its subsidiary Brooklyn drill. And the American side of it, I point to the UK far more than to Chicago, because Pot Smoke and the UK producer 808 Mellow really defined that, and that whole sound has really taken me. I've really liked it. For such a hard-edged kind of genre, it's actually amazingly pleasant to listen to. Very sparse, very sort of wonky bass lines, quite post-grime, I think, in a lot of ways. And we've seen, you know, Skepta and Stormzy and all these people come through, but now there's people like Heady One from the drill side of things really coming through. And last year's Edna, his major label debut, was excellent album, really good. And Digga D is kind of like one of the originators of the whole scene. The other thing to make very clear here, this music, UK drill, has been subject to some of the most onerous censorship I've ever seen in any music. The kind of censorship that will only ever apply to black people. So because of the waves of knife crime and so on in the UK, there's a thing which replaced the antisocial behaviour order, which was the ASBO, which was given to usually poor kids that were accused of violence and being antisocial. It's now the criminal behaviour order. So you get slapped with these, and Digga D's no stranger to prison. He's been in 3 times, and he's before the age of 20, and he was stabbed in the eye and lost the sight of his eye the last time he went in. But these things perpetuate, because he's got this CBO against him. He can do virtually anything and they can throw him in jail. So this is a level of censorship. He isn't allowed to mention certain postcodes, certain people in his music. The Metropolitan Police have been taking down music videos off of YouTube. I mean, this is a really dangerous arena to be in, and he has to vet his music with the police before it's released, which is one of the most astonishing and depressing things I've ever heard. And when you're in that area, they keep sending you back to jail for breaching one thing or another, because if they want to put you away, the more successful you are, the more that they'll blame you for. So it's horrific from an artist's point of view. So anyway, he's come back with his third mixtape, which will likely top the UK charts. I think it did top the UK charts. He's a course celeb in the UK. And it's called Noughty by Nature. Now, he's been someone, I mean, as an album, I've got pluses and minuses here. He's someone that was sold to me that he's got this incredible energy. The overall album is slightly staid. And I kept wondering about this criminal behaviour order and the fact that the police had to review it and what impact that would have on the album he'd present. Because I could feel it. It was a little bit softer than I thought it would be. A little bit more subdued. A lot of it is in the same pocket. It's a very consistent album. The first couple of tracks aren't that interesting. The alter ego and the intro aren't that interesting, but Load Up gets a little bit better on track 3, and Stuck in the Mud and Pump 101 are probably the first two real standouts. Most vibrant. Actually, the production on Pump 101 even reminded me of Clips, that sort of Neptune's Hell Have No Fury production. Hell Have No Fury is the greatest rap album so far this century. Where I got worried was Hold It Down. So I wasn't a fan. I think Stormzy is one of the most charismatic people to ever have come out of UK rap, but I really didn't like his debut album. If I want grime, I want grime. If I want UK drill, I want UK drill. And probably 2/3 of that album seemed to be preaching to the American choir. There's a lot of American hip hop and a lot of sort of lover man ballads, and Hold It Down is really in that sort of vibe. And I thought maybe this album would go down that track, and I really wouldn't, stab for American. And the next track, what you reckon as well, was almost straight up trap, which is not what I want to hear. But it's still not bad. There's nothing bad at all at this point. It's a very consistent tone. I thought there were some more standouts as it progressed. Main Road and Secret, I thought was pretty decent. And G-Lock, they were all sort of 3 tracks in a row where I really sort of thought, yeah, this is actually really good. G-Lock in particular, it's sort of got this bassline feel to it. And I love that a couple of times on this album we get this intersection between these various forms of music, especially coming up in a bit. What else? Yeah, there's a lot of post-808 mellow sort of bass stuff on there. Why as well, which is a great track. But I want to be very clear about something. There are 2 albums here. There's the album proper, and there's the extended album. Now you have to get the extended album, which adds another 7 tracks, taking it up to 23, for a very good reason. Those 7 tracks are everything that the first part of the album is not, which is dangerous, eclectic, full of energy, very exciting, all over the shop, and where the album's hardest material is. Those 7 tracks that end the album and the extended version are magnificent. They're a collection of promotional tracks and singles. Wasted kicks it off and is this incredible. Some of the mixing on that isn't quite there because it sort of drops the volume of the drums when they kick in, but an intersection between drill and northern bassline, Bad Boy Chiller Crew area bassline music, and garage and 2-step, and that is thrilling. It's full of energy, and it's a lot of fun, and it brings the album into vibrant life. It was I think it's a silver selling single in the UK already. So all these singles aren't on the album proper, but only on the extended version. But just that's the best part of the album. 2K17 as well. It's finally we get something that's really menacing, and I wondered whether the album proper was vetted by the police and the extended version wasn't, because this is one that is menacing and talks about knife crime. So Red Light as well, another one that's a bit more menacing. The promo, what's the promo one? A little promo at track 20 is the hardest track on the album, and all 7 extra tracks make for a much more thrilling ride than the rest of the album does. So I really thought that the even Amelia at the end, that's another really hard track, and the 3 freestyles in a row as well. Very, very good stuff. Really good stuff on that. I just wish they'd taken those 7 tracks and peppered them throughout the album, because it would have lifted it. It's a very consistent album, the first unextended part of the album. But it's an awful lot that is in that post 808 mellow pop smoke arena of instrumentation without actually bringing that much new to the table. So they could have easily, if you'd have done Wasted or Red Light in the first 4 tracks, it would have just exploded the album a lot more. So overall, it's a really good listen, but an album of a schizophrenic heart, which is that everything I was told about Digga D seems to happen in those extended cuts, where it's a more staid experience, if a very listenable one, on the album proper. I would have probably given the album proper still about 7 out of 10. It is a very consistent listen, and there's not really much in the way of weakness on it. But with those ecstatically brilliant 7 tracks that foment the end of the album on the extended version, I'm going to give Noughty by Nature an 8 out of 10.